Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Arjun Chaudhary. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Tuesday, the 6th of January. BNP's nationwide shutdown turns violent in Bangladesh, at least 4 killed. States set for presidential polls as campaigning ends in Sri Lanka. And defending champions India announces 15-member squad for Cricket World Cup. And now for all the details. Clashes broke out across Bangladesh on the first day of the nationwide shutdown called by former Prime Minister Begum Khalida Zia. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Supremo, had announced a blockade after she was refused permission to hold an anti-government demonstration on Monday.
Bangladesh remained tense on Tuesday in the light of widespread violence reported from various parts of the country as BNP supporters tried to enforce the indefinite shutdown. At various places, the party also clashed with the supporters of ruling Awami League and law enforcement officials. In Rajshahi, some 140 miles west of capital Dhaka, protesters torched vehicles and hurled crude bombs at police. Vehicles were reportedly set on fire in Dhaka too. In Nator, clashes between both the parties led to death of 2 BNP workers. 22 others were also injured in the scuffle. Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Begum Khalida Zia was confined to her office for the third consecutive day on Tuesday. As police kept the gates of the premises locked, heavy contingent of riot police was also deployed outside the office building. Zia had called for a protest on Monday, the day Bangladesh observed the first anniversary of its general elections, which her party boycotted.
Cross-border accusations follow fresh ceasefire violations across northern Kashmir. While India says Pakistan killed one of its soldiers and fired on at least 15 border posts, Pakistan claims to have responded to the killing of its 2 civilians. Here is a report.
Villages in northern Jammu's Samba region running for cover amid heavy fire. New Delhi says Pakistani soldiers are targeting numerous watch posts of the Indian Army and paramilitary forces. This coming barely a couple of weeks after the rival countries were united in grief over the massacre of school children in Peshawar. The latest shelling and crossfire has left at least 4 people dead on the Indian side. Islamabad accuses India of killing 4 civilians overnight in addition to 2 of its soldiers on New Year's Eve. A renewal of hostilities since then has forced the closure of all schools and colleges on the Indian side. Fearing more attacks, at least 4,000 Indian villagers have fled their homes.
मैं तो प्रशासन से मेरी दरख्वास्त है कि या तो इनसे अगर कोई बातचीत से ये बाज आते हैं ठीक है, नहीं तो फिर इससे तो जंग लड़ना बेहतर है. लोग बॉर्डर खाली करके चले जाएंगे तो ये तो रोज ही पता नहीं है अचानक ये कब शुरू कर दें.
Similar numbers fled border areas in Pakistan as the flashpoint between these testy neighbors extended to international waters at the turn of the year. A fishing boat blew up off the western shore of India after being intercepted by the country's Coast Guard. New Delhi says the suspected boat sailed from Pakistan's port city of Karachi and was carrying militants trying to sneak into India. Islamabad strongly denies these allegations. Some security experts say bilateral relations will continue to be tense in the run-up to visits by US Secretary of State John Kerry and President Obama later this month.
The American president is coming to South Asia, or especially to India. Pakistan wants to internationalize the India-Pakistan problem.
India, equally determined to keep that from overshadowing President Obama's Republic Day visit, is beefing up security across the country.
Top contenders of presidential polls in Sri Lanka ended the election campaign on Tuesday. As the island nation prepares to vote for the crucial ballot later this week, the run-up has already been marred by violence.
After a fortnight of heated campaigning, Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his main election rival Mithripala Sirisena wrapped up their rallies on Tuesday. Bidding for a third term, President Rajapaksa has been seeking to boost his popularity among his supporters. Though incumbent Rajapaksa is still the front-runner, an expected strong challenge from his former health minister, Mithripala Sirisena, a consensus candidate of the united opposition, has prompted a series of defections from Rajapaksa's ruling party. The two parties have been clashing, leading to much unrest in run-up to the elections. Gunmen shot and wounded 3 opposition activists who were preparing a stage for Sirisena on Monday for the final day of campaigning in capital Colombo. A nearby ruling party office was also smashed in an alleged retaliatory strike. Sporadic violence was reported from other parts of the country too. Electoral officers, however, said the incidents of violence were fewer this year.
The violence in terms of number of incidents in comparison to the last election, presidential election in 2010, has reduced. That's probably due to the duration of the campaign. It's a short campaign. Furthermore, the disproportionate amount of resources in the hands of the government as opposed to the opposition, so less pasting of posters, which is an area where you get quite frequently opportunities for violence.
The issues surround abuse of state resources, violence, particularly violence against opposition candidates. There have been concerns raised about the role of the military and the potential role of the military in the elections process.
Rajapaksa, who's been serving the top job ever since 2005, faced criticism over inflation and allegations of corruption and nepotism. He also faced international censure for alleged human rights violations committed during the final phase of the country's civil war and the discontent among the Tamil minority over reconciliation. Rajapaksa had called for snap polls in November, despite nearly 2 years left for his second term to end. Sri Lanka is set to vote on Thursday.
The National Assembly, or the lower house of Pakistan Parliament, on Tuesday passed the 21st Amendment of the Constitution, paving the way for establishment of military courts in the country. The bill was passed with 247 votes in favour and 14 members voting against it. Lawmakers in Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamaat-Ulema-e-Islam, however, abstained from the vote. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had earlier in the day met political party leaders to convince them to support the amendment. The Senate, or the upper house, is expected to take up the bill for discussion on Wednesday. Pakistan government had proposed the setting up of fast-track courts in the country administered by military officials to try terror-related cases following the December 16 attack on the Peshawar Army School, which killed 142 people. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government has announced bounty on Mullah Fazlullah, the chief of banned terror outfit Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. The fugitive militant leader is wanted in Pakistan for a number of terror cases, including the Peshawar school attack.
Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government has prepared a list of 615 high-profile militants and allocated $7.5 million for any details on them. Topping the chart is Mullah Fazlullah, who has a head money of $100,000 for information leading to his arrest or death. Another prominent militant leader included in the list is Mangal Bagh Afridi, chief of the Lashkar-e-Islam. Afridi had in November announced that his militia will work along with Fazlullah's TTP. The move to put a bounty on the dreaded militants comes at a time when the joint forces of Pakistan, Afghanistan and the ISAF are hunting for Fazlullah. Even though Pakistan government has stepped up its action against the TTP and its affiliates, no such action has been initiated against Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed or underworld don Dawood Ibrahim. Pakistan Foreign Ministry had recently claimed that the $10 million US bounty on Saeed is not binding to the country and he was a free man. Both Saeed and Ibrahim, who are believed to be close to the political and military establishment of Pakistan, enjoys a free run in the country despite repeated requests from India, where the duo are wanted in a number of terror cases.
Delhi police on Tuesday registered a murder case regarding the death of Sunanda Pushkar, the wife of former federal minister Shashi Tharoor. The development comes after the medical team probing the case claimed that her death was unnatural and caused due to poisoning. 52-year-old Pushkar was found dead in a room in New Delhi's plush 5-star Leela Hotel in January last year, a day after an online spat with Pakistani journalist Meher Tarar over an alleged affair with Tharoor. The medical team had earlier ruled out the presence of alcohol in Pushkar's body and the presence of minor injury marks as being the reason for her death. A doctor had, however, alleged that the autopsy report was manipulated. An entrepreneur herself, Pushkar married Tharoor at a lavish Kerala wedding in 2010. Defending champions India on Tuesday announced its 15-member team for the ICC Cricket World Cup. The tournament, to be jointly hosted by Australia and New Zealand, will kick off on February 14th.
Mahendra Singh Dhoni will lead the Indian team for the upcoming Cricket World Cup. The final team was announced by the Board for Cricket Control in India, or BCCI, in Western Mumbai on Tuesday. Other team members include Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Suresh Raina, Ambati Rayudu, Ravindra Jadeja, R. Ashwin, Akshar Patel, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Ishant Sharma, Mohammad Shami, Stuart Binney and Umesh Yadav. All-rounder and player of the tournament of 2010 World Cup, Yuvraj Singh, who was in the reckoning despite not being included in the 30-member team earlier, was overlooked in favour of Jadeja, who is currently recovering from an injury.
All the players were discussed, not only Yuvraj Singh, a lot of other players were also discussed apart from the 30. And after a lot of deliberation in presence of all the 5 selectors, as well as Captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Duncan Fletcher were there on the con call, please.
India, which won the last edition of the World Cup, is hoping for the same performance this season as well. The defending champions will begin its campaign this season against arch-rivals Pakistan on February 15th.
Amid jubilant skirts, swirling dancers and dazzling fireworks, the skyline of India's northwestern Rajasthan got lit. And adding to the glow here, the humped ones who charm the visitors with their grace. Take a look.
Boasting the desert state's rich tradition, the city of Bikaner became a hotspot yet again with its 2-day Camel Festival. Ornamented with bright bejeweled harnesses, saddles and anklets, the animals displayed awe-inspiring footwork, dancing gracefully to the slightest direction of their drivers.
ये जो राजस्थान में जो एकमात्र जो ऊँटों का उत्सव होता है, उसमें हम लोग सब रोबिले जो सब मिल करके यहाँ पे तैयारी करते हैं। तकरीबन 2 महीने 2.5 महीने पहले से हम तैयारी करने लगते हैं इसके लिए। और इसका पूरा मतलब हम सब जो मिल करके यहाँ पे आते हैं तो हमें अपने आप में गौरव महसूस होता है। और ये जो बाहर से आते हैं विदेशी, इनके लिए हम आकर्षण का मेन होते हैं और हमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है यहाँ पे इतना सब भव्य ये कार्यक्रम देख करके।
The mega extravaganza also included camel races, musical concerts, dances and puppet shows, apart from competitions like tying of turbans. Scores of visitors from across the world flocked to witness the unique event.
We are here at the Bikaner Camel Festival and I'm actually quite impressed how amazing this is. I mean, I think this is one of the only camel festivals there are in the world, and like I've seen the camel dancing, it was wonderful, there was the fire dance, and this just like, I come from Finland and this is nothing like I've ever seen before.
We have planned our holidays according to the festival, which will be here in Bikaner. And so we arrived 2 days before and we had the opportunity to see here the festival beginning in front of the palace, and it was a real good impression for us. And the camels are colorful and wonderful to see, because normally in Europe you never see a camel on the road, neither between the cars nor between bicycle or anywhere, only in the zoo. So it was a great experience for us, and I'm very happy that we have shared here this festival in Bikaner.
The day-night carnival saw tourists braving the winter cold and getting soaked in the culture of Rajasthan. The festival had a greater connotation this year as the state declared the ship of desert as the state animal. The annual event is exclusively dedicated to camels, which are an important source of transport and livelihood in the state of Rajasthan.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. BNP's nationwide shutdown turns violent in Bangladesh, at least 4 killed. Stage set for presidential polls as campaigning ends in Sri Lanka. And defending champions India announces 15-member squad for Cricket World Cup. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter at SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.